It is Tuesday, the 25th of August, 2020. A warm and hearty welcome to Business Redefined, your weekly most comprehensive look at the world of business and economics. And you can be part of this conversation by tweeting at NTV Kenya at AmbokoJH. The hashtag is Business Redefined. Tonight, we are talking about the controversial subject of leasing state-owned sugar mills. Now, plans by the government to lease 5 cash-strapped sugar mills have kicked up a storm, which has elicited at least 2 matters being filed in court to halt the leasing exercise. In the latest filing, the Kenya National Federation of Sugarcane Farmers has petitioned the High Court of Kenya on the leasing exercise, which had already been halted by the Labour and Employment Court. Why is the leasing exercise so controversial? Why didn't the government pursue the privatization route? What is the nature of the proposed lease arrangement? And for how long will actually this state-owned sugar mills be leased? To shed more light on this, I sat down with the Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya and began by taking a step back into the Sugar Task Force report. Take a listen. Peter Munya, thank you so much for creating time for us.
Thank you. Thank you. It's appreciated.
The subject of the leasing of state-owned sugar farms has become extremely emotive. And one of the questions is that if you go back to the sugar report, at least to the best of my reading, you could correct me if I'm wrong, it was only a recommendation for Chemelil. How come now we are having the 5 state farms?
Well, because the 5 state farms are in the same state as Chemelil, they are all not doing well. They are not able to pay farmers. They are not able to pay salaries for workers. If you go around the sugar and growing area, you'll find even the estate farming that used to take place is no longer happening. So there is serious poverty and disaffection among sugarcane farmers, and they have been asking government to find solutions for them. So when the task force came up with an idea of leasing one of them, we picked that idea. We thought it is fit even for the others, because we think it is better government divest itself from sugar farming and leave it to private sector, who have been doing quite well.
To hold you to that point, CS, and really to be fair, if that is the case, shouldn't we have taken this through the Privatization Commission, as some have actually asked?
Yes, we should have, if that would have worked. Remember, we've tried that for many years. In fact, the privatization of the sugar mills even go to our record since Kibaki time. That has been an agenda, but it has never worked, because the way the law is crafted, it is very difficult to privatize through that route. But if you look at the privatization law, you will find that leasing is one mode of privatization. So we decided to pick leasing as a mode of privatization, but we use the Public Procurement Act to quicken the process.
Okay.
So it's an innovation in terms of the processes you have, because the challenge in government is usually to translate policy into concrete results. Yes. And sometimes the routes provided by law are difficult, so you have to choose the best route that is available. At the end of the day, what is important is, are you serving the interests of the stakeholders, who are the farmers?
Okay. And CS, a typical leasing process would definitely be backed up by valuation. And of course, we have seen the questions around who has valued the assets of these 5 state sugar farms to predicate this leasing exercise?
Actually, during that process of trying to privatize through the Privatization Commission, a valuation was done. And therefore there is a complete valuation report of the mills. What we are doing now, we sent auditors down there. We have teams that are looking at validating that old report to see what has emerged since then. But the status of the assets, the mills, workers, there is a whole complete report, which we are now updating in readiness, because we are still in the process. We haven't leased yet. So we are trying to do many things together to save us time, because those mills have been bottomless pits, government sinking in money there and nobody benefiting. If you consider now, for example, in this leasing exercise, we are writing off 62 billion taxpayers' money. Because some people say it's statutory debt, but it's taxpayers' money. Somebody who was running a mill who should have paid tax to roll that tax into supporting the economy and supporting Kenyans did not do so. So we don't want to continue sinking money in an investment that is clearly not doing well. Government is not known to be very good in managing businesses. Yeah. Private sector does in most cases, and that's why we think we should hand over to a private sector.
See, as the valuation report you've spoken about, will it be open for public scrutiny?
It's a public document. It is there. We can release it. Okay. But it is there. It's a property of the Treasury. We asked for it. It has been given to the auditors who are on the ground right now. So they have copies. They are now updating. Once we complete the update and report, we will obviously share with the public. Okay. We are doing this process in a very, very transparent manner. In fact, we brought in even IFC to provide us with a transaction advisor who will help us package the transaction in a way that the public doesn't lose and even the investors also don't lose.
See, as to the best of our knowledge, you or your office has disbanded the boards of two state millers, that is Nzoia and Sony, in the middle of key transactions. Is this the case, and why is that the case?
What do you mean by key transactions?
That there was an exercise which was being undertaken by this particular state millers to try and get back into financial soundness.
Those millers are not able to get back to anything. They have been camping here asking us for money. Nzoia has been asking us for 300 million. There was 400 million given to them in the past, which they can't even account for. So let them not give you that wrong impression that there is anything they are going to do. What is required is there is serious investment to turn that place around. It's not small money. And we think they have made the right decision. We disbanded the boards because if you're already privatizing, and what you are privatizing are assets, you can't still have a board running because a board is already a legal entity. Now, if it is already in place and running, then what are you privatizing? So it is part of the process of privatizing. You remove the boards, you put in a management committee, which has terms of reference to make sure, of course, no extra debt is incurred, to make sure assets are not stolen, to make sure there is no inflation of debts, because that can also happen. So it's part of making sure that the assets remain the same, preserved, as we go through the process of leasing. Okay. So it is not because we have anything against those gentlemen and women who are running the places, but it's the roadmap says we do that at this stage.
Okay. And could you give us some insight into the nature of this lease arrangements? Because how long are they? Just give us a sense of how they look like.
Well, the cabinet made a decision. We could give you also, because now the cabinet decision is now public, that we lease the factories to a period between 15 years to 25 years. That is to give the investor period that is enough for him to recoup his investments. But we have also put in conditions. You can't sell the assets. You have to provide for investment, tangible investment. In fact, part of the transaction advisory is for them to advise us how much money do we expect the investor to put into the factory to make it running. Most of the machinery are actually obsolete machinery. We want them to put in new modern milling facilities. It's part of the condition. So you can't sell because it is government property. You must invest. And we are even putting in boards so that if within a period of time you haven't done certain things, you can lose the factory so that government leases to somebody else. So it is a very serious process that will only attract serious investors. We have now, of course, completed the process of expression of interest. We got 30 companies from across the world expressing interest to lease. The committee that was evaluated and reduced them to 15 companies. The next step, once we sort out the court issue that has just come up last week, is to move to the stage of invitation of proposals. Those companies now will be told, present your proposals on what you are offering in terms of your investment in these factories once they are leased to you.
The court matter which materialized last week gave the government agencies 14 days, yourselves included, to respond to the issues raised. How far are we with this?
Well, we are responding. First of all, the court decision is quite confusing because it doesn't even, when a court gives an order, it's supposed to be very clear and specific. When you say stop the leasing, what do you mean? Because we are in the middle of it. I've already sacked the boards. There is a committee doing its work. There is on the task doing the work. What exactly have you stopped me from doing? So this is why sometimes you wonder whether some of these courts are not driven by other interests, or probably don't even understand. I don't know, because it's very difficult for me even to understand the court order itself.
All right. And that point by CS Munya takes us to a break. Remember, we are discussing the issue of the intended leasing of 5 state-owned sugar mills. Don't touch the dial. We'll be back with a lot more on this subject.
Heaviness and a burning inside, it could be heartburn.
Indigestion and heartburn? Eno gets to work in 6 seconds and works on the 6 symptoms of heartburn so you can keep living life non-stop. Eno, fight heartburn and indigestion fast.
Well, this is awkward. If only he had amazing data.
Come on, man!
Come on, man! Never miss out on great moments. Enjoy 3 GB plus free WhatsApp for 99 bob daily, or 300 MB plus free WhatsApp for 20 bob daily. Dial *544#.
Come on, man! Airtel, the smartphone network.
The risk of illness causing germs is increasing. It is believed that the coronavirus can remain on surfaces in your home for up to 9 days. Touching infected surfaces is one of the ways in which germs spread. Regularly disinfect your floors, countertops, and kitchen surfaces with bleach, and use an effective toilet cleaner inside and outside your toilet bowl. This message is brought to you by Medifact, JIC, and Hapic.
Smartphone mpya kuanzia 20 bob daily pekee ukilipa mdogo mdogo. Weka down payment ya 1000. Lipa kuanzia 20 bob daily kwa miezi 9. Piga *544# kuona kama unafaulu kupata 4G Neon Ray Pro.
Si hapo Safaricom ni yako kabisa.
Oya ni aje, mimi ndo Jonte Fresh. Mimi ndio nimetambulika hii Gikomba yote sekta ya manguo. Jumio transform nguo ordinary za mtush zenye ziuka mna hii harufu ya bail into the freshest igikosi yote. Siri ni hii Ariel mpya ya pink. Na kushow mtush zinang'ara kung'ara kushinda kamera. So clean, so fresh. Makastoma unaisana na history. Ninatumia Ariel touch of down mpya tu.
What is she doing here?
She's coming with us.
If she's going, I won't.
We won't gain anything with the two of us fighting.
He's already here for me. Why are you going out with Carito? I saw you with her in town.
Saw us where? Ramon told me you were going with a boss.
Don't try to change the subject. Do you think it's right for you to go out with that woman?
I just ended a very complicated relationship. That poor excuse of a man has been making my life a living, breathing nightmare.
That's what I'm saying, Lashana. I don't want to see my nanny sad anymore.
I think the time has come to give myself another chance to be happy.
Along came love. In association with Blue Band Peanut Butter. Are you a business owner? Sign up today to accept fast, easy, and secure payments through Visa. What's more, enjoy flexible financing options for your business. Call us today on 0703 095 445.
Welcome back to Business Redefined. Tonight we're speaking to the CS for the Agriculture Ministry and of course the man at the center of the leasing or intended leasing of the state-owned sugar mills, Mr. Peter Munya. Welcome back on set.
It's appreciated.
Before the break we were discussing the issue of the fate of workers in the farms which are concerned. And of course this is a matter which has raised a lot of public interest. You give us the assurance that the leasing process going on, everyone will be retained on the terms they have been?
Within the leasing conditions as determined by cabinet is the condition that whoever leases the factories must take care of the workers in terms of paying them their arrears and taking them on board the way they are under the current terms of their employment. And they did in determining the cost of leasing, the compensation government will get in terms of leasing, debt to workers, and even debt to farmers, if at all there will be any, because we've been paying those farmers' debt, will also be factored in. So there is no cause for worry from the workers. And we have already organized a meeting through the Secretary General of Kotu to meet the union leaders who went to court to explain this to them so that they can remove the court case so that this process can move on. It is actually in their very best interest.
So CS, with that in mind, and really what you've detailed in terms of the conditions of the leasing, is it ironical that we had this same union going to court? Is it a knowledge gap, or what exactly precipitated this?
We don't want to speculate, but it was in public domain in the media that workers' arrears won't be paid, and their employment conditions are guaranteed. Even when I went to Transoia to address workers and there was union members there, I explained the same to them. So we don't know whether there are other interests that are motivating these court cases. We really don't know. But we are ready and willing to explain to them. They even wrote a letter which we actually replied, but before they got the letter, they were already in court. We had replied explaining this matter to them.
CS, some skeptics would say that we all know, for example, previously we've seen the privatization of Mumias in 2001, and today you look at the state of Mumias. What confidence do you have that this leasing exercise will again now turn around these entities?
Well, this leasing is different from privatization of Mumias. Privatization of Mumias was sale of property, and therefore, once somebody has bought the property, you can't direct him around what to do with the property because that property becomes his property. We think leasing is a better model because it still gives government control. The property remains government property, and you must continue fulfilling the conditions provided for in the lease agreement for you to continue enjoying the occupancy of the property. So it's a better model. It takes care of workers, as I've explained. It also takes care of farmers because farmers are also, you have to guarantee market for the farmers. You have to invest determined sums of money within a particular period when you take over. So it's an improvement in what the debacle of Mumias. And I think it will work.
And CS, do you think there's perhaps a systemic challenge with the sugar sector in Kenya, given the years of wars we've had with this particular sector, including the present situation, that perhaps is just bedeviling the sector right from the structural nature of itself?
Certainly there is some systemic issues. Remember, there is also issue of COMESA regulations that have allowed us to keep safeguards for our sector. We have protected the sector. And we allow importation of sugar to deal with the current, the shortfall. What has happened over the years is sometimes people who came into the sector were only coming so that they can get licenses to import sugar, not to invest in the production. And that's what brought down the sector to where it is now. Now over time, the private investments are picked off especially when government decided that if you are milling sugar, you can't also be an importer. And even the current regulations, what you have said is, if you are a miller, concentrate on milling and investing in production. If there is to be some importation, which is limited and under conditions, because there must be because of the shortfall, then let other people do that. Now that will push the investors to concentrate in investing in production. Once you bring the other investors to take over the other mills, the combination of the 5 mills contributes 30% of the market. Again, that will help resuscitate the sector again.
When you talk about the COMESA safeguards, one reality that the Kenyan industry must now deal with is that we are entering the Africa Continental Free Trade Area framework, which is more liberalized than anything else. So the reality of sugar safeguards ideally should be disappearing. Do you see this as a challenge, as an opportunity? Do you think we are competitive enough?
You know, even COMESA safeguards were not supposed to be there forever. In fact, part of the condition was privatization of...
But we sought extension, not once.
Yeah?
But we
the
sought
extension
extension
comes because government goes and pleads. Look, we haven't done what we were supposed to do. Could you allow us more time? And
that's a problem.
It is a big problem. It is a big problem. This is why I think the general public needs to support this initiative so that we can prepare ourselves as a country for the free trade area that is coming. We just had a COMESA Council of Ministers like last week, and we are seeking another extension to help us. At least this time we have demonstrated that something is happening. We are privatizing, we have passed regulations that have been sitting there for I don't know how many years. We couldn't even pass import-export regulations to regulate the sector. We've been able to pass those regulations. We believe, given the support we have from farmers and the stakeholders out there in that region, we should be able to succeed with this privatization this time around.
Suppose the court issue is taken out and, of course, the leasing continues. What timelines are we looking at in terms of this exercise?
I really haven't clearly looked at the timelines. I can't tell you because there are so many other unforeseen factors like this court one. But I want to give myself 3 months to conclude the process.
Yes, going back to the sector regulations, which of course have brought a lot of feedback from the public. How do you feel the reception has been? Because we've of course received mixed reports, some are for, some are not for. What do you see as the challenge here? Wasn't there adequate public participation on what the issue is?
You see, the problem is managing those different interests. Those who are not for them, probably those who are benefiting from the current situation. Why would they be interested in a situation where sugar is being regulated in terms of imports? If you are an importer of sugar and you drive in flooding this market with sugar, you will not be happy with regulations that tell you that you must prove that you have paid taxes first, you have ordered the sugar you are bringing, the quantities, before you bring them into the country. You will not be happy. I don't think there is a regulator who makes every stakeholder happy. I don't see a serious regulator that makes every stakeholder happy, no.
And just as we wrap up, CS, how do we stand with the whole discussion around zoning, which of course was in the Sugar Task Force report and has elicited a lot of reaction as well?
Zoning, for example, in the tea sector has been the vogue. It has been the vogue because tea is grown around a factory. And there are regulations and do that say you can't take the tea elsewhere. The reason that is so is in the tea sector, most of the owners of that factory are the small-scale farmers themselves. Now, these millers are private mills. Why do you want to pay to tie farmers around a factory that they don't own? Why do you want to tie their feet to that factory, to that private individual there, without any safeguards? So that is the strongest argument against zoning. If the farmers owned the factory, they are a cooperative or a company owning it, then it would make sense because then they have put their money in the factory. But I'm an investor, I put in my money. The farmer has put in, unless you have invested your money in developing my cane, then in that case, already the regulations say there will be agreements between the farmer and the owner of the factory. That guarantees the cane when there are agreements. But general zoning without guarantees for the small-scale farmer who is very weak, I wouldn't support that.
So the position is that there should be guarantee agreements?
In fact, the regulation says the sugarcane miller can even lease the farm and grow his cane and pay the farmer. There's no problem with that. Or invest in the farming, then have agreements with the farmer that the farmer will obviously supply because he has invested in the farm. But where you have not invested, why should you get guaranteed supply of sugarcane from my farm? You see the point? Yeah. So the regulations provide both. No zoning, but millers can enter into agreements.
All right. And that point by CS Peter Munya takes us to the close of our conversation on the intended leasing of the 5 state-owned sugar mills. Remember, this is Business Redefined. Up next is the Markets Report.
Markets Review, proudly brought to you by Business Daily. More possibilities.
And let's take a look at how the capital markets closed the day. The NSE 20 share index closing at 1743.08. That is down 41% since the start of the year and marginally since yesterday, that is 0.3%. Crossing over to the foreign exchange market to look at how the shilling has behaved today, closing against the USD at 108.03, not changing from yesterday, against the sterling pound at 141.77, having closed marginally downwards at 0.01%, and against the euro at 127.91, down 0.5%. So that is the state of the capital and foreign exchange markets. Right, and that takes us to the close of business as far as Business Redefined is concerned. Many thanks for your feedback. There's so much coming in, and of course the key question here is what will be the fate of the workers in these mills after the leasing exercise, should it go through? The CS has given us a guarantee that they will be retained on their present terms. Of course, we shall be holding him this word and to see how this unfolds in the next coming months. Let's do this again next week, same place, same time, on a very different subject. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.
I help women find independence by training them in fish farming. It's tough on my back, joints, and can cause headaches. Panadol Extra relieves multiple types of pain. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
From far with you. I even gifted you a magnificent house. Rosa, it's the thought that counts. Please help me.
When it comes to fever, you need to be both. Panadol Baby and Infant starts to work on fever in 15 minutes and is gentle on the tummy. Panadol Baby and Infant, tough on fever, gentle on your child.
When deciding where to buy land for a home, consider your preferred neighborhood, security, social amenities, infrastructural master plan for the larger area, as well as your retirement years.
There are 4 approved architectural house concepts, styled to accommodate your ideal dream home. Indulge your senses and relive your childhood desires, where you can be free